No, boy, no. Hello, my strong friends. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to trap bar deadlift. We're wasting no time. Let's get into it. First of all, you're going to need some shoes, or you could go barefoot. You want to avoid your cushy running shoes and instead opt for a flat-soled shoe. This is a nasty old Chuck Taylor. Anything like a Van, Nike Metcon shoes, a lot of shoes that are made for CrossFit, that will be ideal. The foot is going to be important because we want to create a foot tripod. So while we're about to pull, we want to be super stable on our foot and think about 3 points of contact going into the floor. One, bottom of the heel, and then either side of the top part of your foot. Is that called the sole? That's the sole, yes. So you want to be super stable, not all the way in your heels, not all the way in your toes. Find a tripod so that you're nice and balanced so that you can be your strongest for the trap bar deadlift. All right, this is a trap bar that we have at our gym. This is from Kabuki Strength Systems. This is a heavy duty trap bar that has a built-in jack. The built-in jack makes it so that whenever you're ready to load the plates, the bar is high enough so you can do it easily. Most trap bars will have either a half hex or a full hex that you step into. This one is half, and then it has two handles, high handles and low handles. If you're doing the ACFT, like we are on my channel, you will always want to use the low handles. If you find that you have some mobility restrictions, then you can go ahead and use those high handles, but just know that in the ACFT test, you'll be using the low handles here. All right, before we even grab the bar, let's look at our feet again. We want our feet to be hip distance. Maybe you could go even a little bit more narrow. I would say start with your standard conventional deadlift stance. If you don't know your conventional stance, just start with feet directly under the hips. You can always experiment with a little bit wider, and you can always experiment with toes facing out, outwardly rotated just a little bit. I would start feet parallel, hip distance apart. Why don't you start there if you're just getting started and then see what feels best for you. You've got your stance, now it's time to finally grab the handles. So in order to get down there, I'm gonna need to bend at the waist and at the knee. Like I said, we're going to push our hips back, bend our knees, the knees are gonna travel forward and the hips are gonna lower to pull ourselves into the start position. When we grab the handles, we wanna grab directly in the middle. I don't want you to be too far and I don't want you to be too forward back. So be careful and make sure that you're pulling right directly in the middle before you get started. Now, what you want to do is use the weight of the bar to kind of wedge in there. Next, I want you to kind of lock your chin in. So visually find a speck of dust on the ground or whatever you can so that you can visually focus on something and then your chin stays locked in the same position. You don't want to be moving all around. You don't want to be staring up at the ceiling. Lock your chin in, and then last, think that someone is kind of coming to tickle your armpits. So someone's coming to tickle your armpits, so you're like, no, don't do it. You lock your shoulders in, pack your lats, and that way you can create a really rigid upper body and rigid torso. So I want the torso to stay in the same position while we're pulling. So it's gonna be pretty upright, locked in. You're not coming into flexion, you're not rounding the back, you're not coming into super extension. Okay, now we're ready to pull after we get into our perfect start position. It's probably never gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be pretty dang close. Remember our foot tripod. When we're ready to initiate and lift the bar up, we're going to use our tripod to push through the floor. Think about pushing through your feet, through the floor, and then pulling up with your upper body. It's kind of like a push-pull. You've got that foot tripod, we're pushing and pulling. As we lift, our quads will activate, squeezing at the top to come to full extension. On the eccentric, on the way down, we're breaking at the hip and the knee at the same time. Knees come forward, hips lower, to finally let the bar rest. Let's talk about some of the benefits and then drawbacks to the trap bar deadlift, especially when we compare it to other deadlifts. So the trap bar deadlift is really easy to teach, and it's really easy, not really easy, but it's far easier than the conventional or even sumo deadlift for a beginner to pick up, which makes it a really good test for the Army, for the new ACFT test, because you have a wide population of people trying it, maybe some people who have never lifted before. The trap bar deadlift is a really good alternative for those of you who have some lower back issues, or those of you who feel like the conventional or sumo deadlift isn't great on your lower back, or if you have a hard time recovering after some of those heavy sessions. You have a more upright torso angle, a little bit less stress on the back, and it can be something that's a great alternative or substitution for some of your programs or even full blocks of training. When you compare the trap bar deadlift to your conventional deadlift, one great benefit is the structure of the bar. You don't have to keep your knees out of the way of a barbell straight in front of you or straight in front of your shins. You kind of fit perfectly in the hex, which is great because then you can pull with either higher hips or lower hips. You can mimic the stance or hip position of your conventional deadlift, or you can play around with more of a squat pattern. It definitely is not a squat pattern. It is still a pretty good hinge pattern. It is a good substitution for your deadlift. So I would still do squats if you're training the trap bar deadlift, if you can, if you like to do squats. They're complementary exercises. And last thing, you don't have to use a mixed grip or have one hand supinated in order to go really heavy with the trap bar. So your hands are neutral facing one another, and that could be a good reason for those of you who may have ever experienced a bicep tear, which when you're going super heavy isn't really common, but it can happen. A bicep tear, if you've ever experienced any bicep pain or just don't like the feeling of a mixed grip, the trap bar deadlift might be a good alternative for you. There are some drawbacks. Obviously, if you're a powerlifter competing in powerlifting, then the trap bar deadlift is not used in competition. It could be a good off-season substitution, but getting really heavy and getting really efficient at the trap bar is not gonna help you in your powerlifting career, at least being proficient in the movement, although the strength will be there and it could carry over to your conventional or sumo deadlift. One thing that you'll notice on some of the shots that are straight on of me, the handles are pretty wide. So I would love to find a trap bar to where my hands are like noodles, so that my hands are straight down. They are a little wide, and for smaller people, AKA lots of women, you might find that your grip tends to be a little bit wider than what might be most comfortable for you. And of course, you don't have much flexibility with your stance. You can't really do sumo in a hex bar. You can't really do sumo with a trap bar. If you're following my current series and following along as I try to ace the Army Combat Fitness Test, or if you yourself are in the Army and trying to improve your trap bar deadlift for that purpose, you'll find on the official military website or the official Army website that they suggest a couple of exercises in order for you to get more efficient at the trap bar deadlift. Those exercises are it's kind of bullshit, I think, okay? They have kettlebell sumo deadlifts, they have alternating staggered squat jumps, and forward lunges. Those are good accessory movements, but if you wanna get better at the trap bar deadlift, you need to be deadlifting. You need to be trap bar deadlifting at least one time a week. In order to pass, for my ladies, you need 120 pounds on the trap bar deadlift. Honestly, I would wager to say most people could probably do that without much training. But if you wanna ace it, the score that I need, for most age ranges, you need 230 pounds to max it. That is gonna take a little bit of effort. You're gonna need to do a lot more than just some suboptimal weights, some suboptimal resistance kettlebell training. So I would recommend training the trap bar deadlift at least one time a week, incorporating a full strength program so that you can hopefully get 100 score on this, because I would say that the trap bar is the easiest of all the events. You might disagree, but I think this is the easiest. And it's something that is totally attainable for my ladies who want to get 100. I know you can do it. If you guys are looking for a strength training program for beginners, check out my 100% free program, Before the Barbell. It's just hosted on Instagram, so you can just check out the @BeforeTheBarbell. I'll link it down below, and you will find the entire program super easily laid out just on Instagram. You don't need to give me any money. You don't need to give me your email. You don't need to give me nothing, but you're gonna love the program. I would just substitute the conventional or the barbell deadlift for your trap bar whenever you get to deadlifting. So this program is made for people who have never barbell trained before. And I know since the new test, lots of people are getting into strength training for the very first time. So I would love if you joined Before the Barbell. It's free. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully this was helpful. Bye.